Imagine holding a disc of baked clay, cool and heavy in your hand. It's unearthed from the ruins of a palace that burned to the ground nearly 4,000 years ago. As you trace its surface, your fingers feel a perfect, repeating pattern. A spiral of tiny, intricate pictures. A plumed helmet, a running man, a captive, a ship. They look like hieroglyphs. But there's something deeply wrong. They are too perfect, too uniform. You're not looking at something carved by hand. You are looking at a printed text, an artifact from 1700 BCE, made with movable type of technology that history tells us shouldn't exist for another 2,500 years. This isn't just an ancient tablet. It's a piece of impossible technology. A message from a lost world that breaks every rule we thought we knew about the past. And its silence is the most terrifying part of the story. And now please stop the video and subscribe to our channel. To be able to keep making videos like this, we need to reach 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. Thank you. That impossible silence begins with a sound. The sharp crack of a pickaxe striking stone under the punishing Cretan sun on July 3rd, 1908. You have to understand, the archaeologist Luigi Pernier was a man haunted by a rival's success. While Arthur Evans was pulling legendary treasures from the Palace of Knossos, Pernier was digging through the dust of Phaistos, desperate for a discovery that would echo through history. His workers were clearing what they called Room XL 101, a small annex in the northeastern apartments of the palace ruins, when they found it. A hollow, stone-lined repository, like a grave sealed shut by the very catastrophe that destroyed it. Picture yourself in that chamber, sealed off from the world for nearly 4,000 years by a thick, suffocating blanket of burnt debris, hardened earth, and ash. The air itself would have tasted of ancient smoke. As Pernier's team carefully scraped away the layers of destruction, the first finds were exactly what they expected. Fragments of Middle Minoan pottery, the charred bones of cattle, and, tantalizingly, a clay tablet inscribed with the undeciphered Linear A script. But then, buried beneath it all, a worker's trowel scraped against something else. It was found face down, caked in the dirt and soot of its tomb. A simple, unassuming circle of fired clay. Pernier held it in his hands. This disc, feeling its weight, unaware he was holding a paradox. He saw an artifact. He had no idea he was actually holding a ghost of a technology that wasn't supposed to exist yet. And the closer he looked, the more that ghost would begin to scream. To understand this technological ghost, you first have to understand the civilization that birthed it. Because the Minoans were not like other ancient empires. They were a people born from the sea, a thalassocracy that built its power not with towering walls, but with fleets of advanced ships that dominated the Bronze Age Mediterranean. Their worldview seems almost alien to us now. Picture their palaces at Knossos and Phaistos, not as crude fortresses, but as sprawling, labyrinthine centers of art and power, open to the sky. Their walls pulsed with vibrant frescoes depicting a world we can barely comprehend. Bare-chested priestesses commanding snakes, dolphins leaping through surreal blue waves, and athletic figures, both men and women, vaulting over the backs of charging bulls. Inside these palaces, they had engineering that bordered on the futuristic, light wells that illuminated vast halls and sophisticated plumbing systems with terracotta pipes that would not be rivaled for another 1,000 years. This was a culture of profound complexity, and we now know of secrets. The disc wasn't their only attempt to capture language. For centuries, they used other scripts, equally mysterious to us today. A pictographic system we call Cretan hieroglyphics, and a more common, flowing script known as Linear A. The very same script found on a broken tablet right beside the disc in that sealed, ashen chamber. They were a people obsessed with codes, a literate society whose every last word is now lost to us. But the Phaistos Disc was different. It was their greatest secret. And it wasn't just what they wrote that was so revolutionary, but how they wrote it. A method so far ahead of its time, it looks like a message from the future. That message from the future wasn't written with a pen or a stylus. When archaeologists like the legendary Sir Arthur Evans first examined the disc, they expected to see the familiar marks of a scribe dragging a sharp point through wet clay. But as they looked closer, a deep, unsettling feeling must have crept over them. The signs were too perfect. Under the magnifying glass, the crisp, sharp edges of a plumed helmet on one side of the disc were not just similar to another helmet on the other side. They were identical. Every curve, every line, every microscopic detail was a perfect match. The dawning realization was a direct contradiction of everything they knew about the ancient world. These symbols hadn't been individually carved. They had been pressed into the clay, stamped with a set of master punches. This wasn't writing. It was printing. Think about what that means. This artifact was created with movable type, the single most important invention in the history of communication. Johannes Gutenberg is credited with this revolution around 1440 CE. This disc was pulled from a layer of ash dating to roughly 1700 BCE. That is a gap of over 3,000 years. It's a technological leap that appears in the Bronze Age, fully formed, only to vanish completely from human history. And this was no crude experiment. Forensic analysis has proven it was a deliberate, sophisticated system of 45 distinct, reusable stamps. A complete printing set, ready to arrange and press any message they desired. The Minoans had invented the printing press. The shocking discovery answered one question but opened a chasm of others. A press is just a tool. The real mystery was the message it was built to print, a text arranged with a terrifying, deliberate precision that holds the key to its purpose. That terrifying precision becomes undeniable when you stop treating the disc as an artifact and start treating it like a crime scene, analyzing every single mark for clues. For decades, the most basic question, which way to even read it, was a subject of furious debate. But the argument was settled not by linguists, but by forensic imaging. High-resolution 3D scans and microscopic analysis revealed the truth hidden in the clay. At the edge of the symbols, you can see the faint, almost invisible overlap where one stamp pressed into the space of the one laid down before it. The evidence is irrefutable. The scribe's hand moved from the outside rim inward, the message spiraling deeper and deeper into the center of the disc, like it's being pulled into a vortex. And it is a message. The flow of 241 symbols isn't a chaotic jumble. The scribe used a sharp point to slice the spiral into 61 distinct groups, like words in a sentence. 31 on one side, 30 on the other. This is a text with grammar, with syntax, with rules. Yet it's a single human imperfection that provides the most chilling proof of its authenticity. On side A, a clear mistake is visible. A sign was smeared in the wet clay, partially erased, and then re-stamped correctly over the error. It's the ghost in the machine, a 4,000-year-old fingerprint that proves a human being made this. But there's one final layer to the code. After the stamping was done, the scribe took a stylus and hand-drew a diagonal dash under the last sign of 18 of these words. A secret mark added after the fact. Is it punctuation? A musical note? A guide for a ritual chant? Every detail screams that this is a genuine, impossibly complex document, which makes the next question so deeply disturbing. What if it's all a lie, a masterfully crafted fraud designed to fool the entire world? It's a deeply uncomfortable question, one that reframes a historical treasure as a criminal exhibit. But what if the official story is a lie? What if the disc is not a message from a lost world, but the centerpiece of an elaborate academic crime? The accusation was leveled most forcefully by Dr. Jerome M. Eisenberg, an antiquities expert who dared to suggest the unthinkable. He claimed the disc was a modern forgery, and he laid out the evidence like a prosecutor. First, he pointed to the physical object itself. Its perfectly round shape and clean, sharp edges are, in his words, completely un-Minoan. Authentic Minoan clay tablets are typically irregular, their edges rough and clearly shaped by hand. The disc, by comparison, looks too clean, too precise, almost as if it were made with modern tools. Second, and most damning, is the technological vacuum. For an invention as revolutionary as movable type to appear fully formed, with no known precursors, and then to vanish, leaving no successors, is a statistical impossibility. History doesn't work that way. It's a singular data point in a field that relies on patterns and evolution, a red flag that screams anomaly. Finally, Eisenberg identified a motive and a suspect. The intense, career-driven pressure cooker of early 20th century archaeology and the disc's discoverer, Luigi Pernier. Pernier was desperate to escape the long shadow of his rival, Arthur Evans. He needed a world-shattering find. And, almost too conveniently, he found one. The case is compelling. A man with a motive, an object that looks too perfect to be real, and a technology that simply shouldn't exist. For years, these doubts festered. A dark stain on the disc's legacy. It seemed like a perfect crime, until science finally gave the clay itself a chance to testify. For an object accused of being a fraud, the courtroom was a laboratory, and the star witness was the clay itself. The first test was a judgment by fire and light, a technique called thermoluminescence dating. Think of it as a clock, baked into the artifact's very structure. The moment clay is fired in a kiln, this clock starts ticking. Over centuries and millennia, crystalline minerals in the clay trap energy from the natural radiation in the surrounding earth, like a battery slowly charging. When scientists take a tiny sample and reheat it under controlled conditions, that stored energy is released as a burst of light. The intensity of that light tells you exactly how long it's been since the clock was last reset to zero by the fires of a kiln. The test results, conducted by the University of Oxford, were unambiguous. The clock didn't read 100 years. It read nearly 4,000. The firing date was placed squarely within the Minoan period, a perfect match for the layer of destruction in which it was found. The next test was a judgment by Earth, geochemical analysis. Every source of clay on the planet has a unique chemical fingerprint, a precise recipe of trace elements and minerals. A forger would have needed to find the exact ancient clay pit the Minoans used. The analysis was conclusive. The disc's chemical signature is a perfect match for the soil of the Massara Plain and other artifacts known to have been made at Phaistos. The science was ironclad. The disc wasn't a modern fake made with foreign clay. It was an authentic object, fired in a Minoan kiln, using local Minoan earth. The verdict was in. The impossible was real, and that definitive scientific answer makes the central mystery of our story infinitely more disturbing. Because if this revolutionary technology was authentic, why did it vanish without a trace? That question hangs over the disc like a shroud. Because the truth is far more disturbing than any forgery could ever be. A fake is a simple lie. But a real revolutionary technology that is utterly erased from history is a nightmare. In the entire archaeological record of human civilization, there is not one other object made with movable type before the 15th century CE. Not a single discarded stamp, not a single prototype, not a single mention in the texts of neighboring empires. A ghost that leaves one perfect footprint and then vanishes. How is that possible? The answer, it seems, lies in the same fire and ash that preserved the disc in the first place. The destruction layer that entombed it was evidence of a catastrophic event, likely a massive earthquake, that leveled the palace of Phaistos and consumed it in a firestorm. What if that disaster didn't just destroy a building? What if it was a knowledge extinction event? Imagine a single workshop, perhaps the only one in the world, holding the master set of 45 stamps. Imagine the handful of artisans, the only people on the planet who knew the secret. In a single violent afternoon of shaking earth and roaring flame, all of it, the tools, the workshop, the knowledge itself, could have been wiped from existence. And that is the true horror of this story. The tragedy is not the mystery of what the disc says, but the monumental loss it represents. It is the ghost of a future that never happened, a spark that could have ignited a renaissance of mass communication in the Bronze Age, snuffed out before it could catch. We are looking at the ash of a world-changing idea, born millennia before its time and silenced forever. The printers were consumed by the flames, but their final message survived, and for a century, the world's greatest codebreakers have been trying to make it speak. That race to hear the voices from the silence has become one of the great intellectual obsessions of the last 100 years. The Phaistos Disc is the Mount Everest of ancient scripts, drawing in generations of the world's most brilliant linguists, military codebreakers, and obsessive amateurs, all hoping to be the first to unlock it. The result is a dizzying, chaotic chorus of competing ghosts. Listen to the claims. Some scholars are certain it's a sacred hymn to a Minoan earth goddess, its inward spiral a map for a ritual dance. Others see the cold, hard text of power, a legal treaty between Phaistos and Knossos, a list of soldiers destined for battle, or a royal proclamation. Still others, staring into the abyss of the unknown, have declared it a magical curse, a farmer's almanac, a list of sacred sites, and even the rules to a complex board game. Each theory is a monument to human ingenuity, passionately argued and defended, and every single one of them is pure speculation. The problem is brutal in its simplicity. The disc is a hapax legomenon, a term for a text that is utterly unique. With no other examples of this script in existence, there is no key. There is no Rosetta Stone to translate from. We don't even know what language the symbols represent, so we cannot assign a sound to a single one of the 45 signs. It is a perfect code. The genius of its physical creation is matched only by the utter impenetrability of its content. We are left staring at a message we can never read, separated from its creators by an impassable gulf of time. But perhaps, after a century of failure, we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the secret isn't in the symbols at all, but in the dire warning the object itself represents. That perfect, unbreakable code forces us to step back and confront a chilling possibility. After a century of failed decipherments, maybe we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the secret isn't what the message says, but what the object is. The disc itself is the warning. It is a testament to the terrifying fragility of genius. It proves that a world-changing idea can be born in a flash of brilliance, only to be buried by a single spasm of the earth and erased from human memory for 4,000 years. It shatters our comforting illusion of history as a straight upward line of progress. The disc is a glitch in the timeline, irrefutable proof that our ancestors touched a future that was then ripped away from them, and in that, there is a lesson about power. An object this sophisticated, this revolutionary, could only have been created by a powerful elite, a tool to project their authority, be it religious, military, or administrative. It speaks to their ambition, their vision, their grasp on the world. And yet, its survival as a unique, orphaned artifact speaks to their ultimate vulnerability. All their power could not stop the ground from shaking or the fires from burning. It reminds us that even the greatest civilizations can be reduced to a single, incomprehensible whisper. The Phaistos Disc is a message in a bottle from a drowned world. It reminds us that our own knowledge, our own technology, is not guaranteed to survive. What secrets of our own time will be incomprehensible to the future? And what warnings will they fail to understand?